Hello everyone, welcome to today's Hawkular 1 Alpha 8 demo. As usual, we will first do a presentation of the new things in Hawkular 8. So basically what we have been working on in the last 8 weeks, 4 weeks, Alpha 8, but 4 weeks. There are a lot of things that I cannot show that we have been working on, like preparation to move on to Wildfly 11 in the future, Wildfly 10 even, not 11. So this will probably be the subject of the next demo. And after I have done my demoing, my colleague Alyssa is going to demonstrate how Hawkular can be integrated into ManageIQ. Before I talk more strange things, I will just start with the demo and will try to share my screen. And for whatever reason, this thing to share my screen is showing off screen. But this should work now. I hope you can see my screen, my browser. And this says login to Hawkular, and this looks a bit different than usual. And here, the difference is that in the past, we had always Keycloak integrated in Hawkular. So this was already started when Hawkular was started and had basically the life cycle of Hawkular. But now when you go into a real enterprise or in a larger deployment scenario, you probably already have a Keycloak server running, or if not, you want that so that in the future, you can single sign on into Hawkular and then go to the Wildfly console without the need to re-log in just by following the link. And then Keycloak plus some other magic is just taking care of all the login and so on. And as a lucky coincidence, the Wildfly Swarm team has recently released a Keycloak server or Keycloak Swarm server. And this is what I've downloaded from some Maven repository here. It's a single jar file, and I can easily just start that via java -jar and the name of this jar file. I'm binding it to public address of that machine and having a port offset of 10K because I'm also will run a Wildfly server on it on the standard ports. So let's do that. This is starting pretty quickly. Okay, so now the Keycloak server is ready and I can go to its console. This is obviously not. Auth admin I need to go to. Then I can log in as admin. It asks me to immediately change the admin password. And now I'm in Keycloak. Why am I doing this exercise? First, just to show you that this is pretty easy to set up. Second, because Hawkular, as it stands, needs a realm. And all these wildflies later will go into the same realm so that they can talk to each other. So what I can do here, there is on the left corner, there is this Add Realm button. When I go there, I can take a realm definition file, like this one, Hawkular realm for dev JSON. I open it and I create it. And when we look at it, we see this has been imported. It's now the Hawkular realm shown here. It has a user of JDO. And as this has succeeded, I will start the Wildfly server in a parallel and then talk a little bit more about Keycloak. Now, another thing that I've also been doing is running with an external Cassandra cluster. By default, Cassandra is also running embedded in Hawkular in this all-in-one distribution, just to be able to quickly start and test Hawkular, play with it, and so on. But if you want to do for more serious play, you want to have an external Cassandra cluster that can have a good number of nodes. And there is actually an environment variable called Cassandra nodes, and this points to one of the Cassandra nodes, or can point to more than one. It's on 10, 1, 2, 3 for me. And now I can start my Wildfly at the Hawkular server via bin standalone.sh, as you know it. I bind to all ports. I tell it with -d Hawkular backend remote that this is going to use a remote Cassandra defined by this Cassandra nodes variable. And then with the -d keycloak server.url, I tell my Hawkular server where my keycloak server lives. So let's start that. And while it's starting, I'll come back here. So this is the Hawkular realm. There are a few realm settings like can users register and so on. There are theme settings. Right now, the Keycloak swarm does not allow to have custom themes per realm or so. So at the moment, it's just the base of the Keycloak theme. I won't change that. And then here is a list of clients. And these clients, they can be the Hawkular UI as an example. So it's enabled using OpenID Connect, has some redirect URLs and so on. And then another client that you have is the accounts backend. And this accounts backend has here the direct access grants enabled, has also some redirect URLs. And that's it. I can add a new user to the system. So let me, like this, user is enabled. The email is already verified, so that's good. I can save that definition, and then I can go on with additional attributes and so on. What we need right now are the credentials. We can set the password here. And this is not temporary. And yes, I want to set it. And now we're done. Now the question is probably, where do I get this keycloak definition file from? And you can basically just take the one, or as a starting point at least, that comes with Hawkular. So if you look into the unzipped Hawkular distribution within standalone configuration, there is this keycloak server, not this one, Hawkular realm for dev or Hawkular realm.json. The difference is between the two that this Hawkular realm for dev should already have the JDO user in it, while the other one does not have it. And the default for these downloads to be used is the Hawkular realm.json. Okay, that's that. This does not look exactly good. Let me see if I can log in. Nope. Let's just stop this one. Complains that there is no. Let me just retry here. So clean out my Cassandra database just in case. So this one is up again. Start again. Add the realm. create. Now I will check here, Hawkular accounts backend in the credentials. This has a secret set, so this is good. We should be good to go. So let me just retry it here. Sandra is up and running. And let's see. Okay, still waiting. Still waiting. I think this is looking better now. Let's check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Yep, much better. So this time I go to localhost 8080 as we know it. And here we go. It's funny, by the way, Chrome asks me if it should save the password for pint size 18080 when it's displaying localhost. This is basically because of the Keycloak server being here on pint size. But I don't want to do that now. So let me start also a few more Wildfly servers with the help of Ansible. They should pretty quickly show up in here. And while we do that, let's go to the URL screen, add some URLs, as you know that. And here we have now a filter. So you see first they are in tiles, and we have these filters. You can filter by state. So only show me those that are up. They are still unknown. Show me the ones in down. Well, they are down apparently here if they are not up. You can just have all of them, and you can also combine the filters. Now they're up, and you see when I filter for down, they are gone. So that's that. Now let me go here to the organization settings and create an organization, hawkular.org, and can go in here. You see there is one member, this John Doe. We can invite someone else via email. This will change in the future so that you can also invite other people that are already registered. So for now, we don't do that. Now when I go back to the URLs, I'm still the John Doe user. Now when I switch here, well, this is again presentation effect. I'm coming back in a second. Meanwhile, we have our servers, five servers up. And I can go to the Hawkular server, that's this one. And here we have now something pretty new and cool, which is this overview page. This is per server, and it gives you in a very condensed view in the middle, a summary of what's happening in all these tabs. You see some server details. So this is a Wildfly server. It's running. The host is Nerd. You can add labels. Like this. Currently, this is not yet fully implemented, so we'll do that in the next iteration. You can, of course, go back to these tabs like JVM. I see the deployments, as you have seen that before. And when I go in here and I want to add a data source, we now have here in this add data source dialog these wizard steps so that it's more or less obvious what to do. And when I go for non-XA data source, it also shows correctly that we don't need to set any properties. Similar for when I add a deployment, it also shows me the deployment steps here. Now, no alert yet. Is it good or is it bad? It's a good thing, of course. So let's go to heap used. If it's greater than 80% max, let's say 50, and every time. This should hopefully soon provoke an alert here. Let's go to the definitions. No alert yet. Well, anyway, so let's try this one here. I'm impersonate at Hawkular.org now. And all of a sudden, the application servers are gone. This is because, and this is something which is new now, that now you are running as the Hawkular.org organization, the Hawkular.org user. So these are now resources that are shared across all of the Hawkular.org people, while these resources are only the John Doe resources. Similar for the URLs. Here's the John Doe ones, the Hawkular ones, and I can just add one for redhat.com. And if I would add another user to Hawkular.org, this user would also see this URL and these application servers for Hawkular.org, but not for the John Doe. And if I switch again, you see the Red Hat web server is gone here, and the other two are showing like this. So now the question is, and how can I actually have my Wildfly servers not run as John Doe, but as Hawkular.org? Because if they are for the whole enterprise, they should not be just limited to these users for the individual accounts of the users of the organization. And there is a new screen here, which are the tokens. And here you can create a token and then use this key and secret combination in all the requests into the system instead of the username password combination. This is not yet fully operational in all places, but we are adding that as we speak. So let me get back here. No Hawkular.org servers. I have these servers. And let me go to the alert sender. And now we finally have an alert, which is a good sign in the sense of the demo. And if I go to the details, I now see here a description of what's about the usage that triggered the alert. I have these 3 buttons for the state transitions. So currently it's open. Trigger this definition. So what is the trigger about? And on the right side, I have this little nice metric display that gives me some context why this trigger has fired. And I can acknowledge that with this is an ACK and save it. And then this is recorded, my acknowledgement here. And this open button has gone because you cannot go back from acknowledged to open for an alert for obviously reasons. And here you see we have gotten another email that this has now been acknowledged. Yeah, so another nice thing that we have, again, for the impersonation, when you are now Hawkular.org, you see no alerts for Hawkular.org yet, and you log out and then come back in. Then you are directly impersonating as Hawkular.org, so there is no additional switching needed here, but this is implicit. So directly remembered the last state. What else? The URLs, you've seen the tiles with the mini charts, of course. If you click on it, you get the view that you already know. Similar for the application servers. When I go in here, I have these other boxes. Basically looks like the same. The diagnostic report button has moved over here. And there is some cosmetics that has changed a little bit in the display of the date picker and a few more other things. So as I said before, we have done a lot of work in the area of behind the scenes that I can't really show. And we will, of course, continue with that. Now, having said that, so, well, it says File einblenden. I hope everyone was seeing that now, or anyone. Okay, let me go that. Now I trying to hand over to Alyssa. Woo!
Without sound.
Perfect. So can you hear me well?
Missing the sound, Alisa.
A bit low voice.
Let me try again. How's that?
You should
Fade.
Great.
be louder.
Still? All right. Let me try to bump it
I
up.
can't hear you.
Okay. This is as loud as I can go. I can try to bump up the volume here. That's just, I think, the loudest.
Can you hear Heiko? I don't.
Yeah, I can hear her. It's pretty quiet, but
I,
I can hear her. It's pretty quiet, but
Okay. How's that?
still mostly the same.
Right. This is like the loudest that I can do.
Still mostly the same.
All right. This is the best I can do, guys. Sorry. Let's switch to the presentation, and I hope the volume is good enough for everyone, at least somehow. And I hope that the screen will be more self-explanatory than my talk. So. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Great. So thank you very much for inviting me here. And I'm about to talk a little bit about the POC that we did. For some reason, I can hear myself twice, so maybe you need to mute yourself. Okay, so I would like to start with a little bit of what ManagerQ is. I would also like to thank Heiko and Jason Frey from the ManagerQ team who helped me doing that POC. And let's dive in. So really a brief intro. What is ManagerQ? ManagerQ is an open source project. It's developed in Ruby on Rails. And it is a cloud management platform, or how some people like to call it, the manager of managers. And what basically does, it connects to different environments. It could be a virtualization environment such as an Overt or Rev or VMware vCenter. It could be a cloud environment like OpenStack or Amazon. And most recently, it can also connect to containers environments like OpenShift and Kubernetes. And when you connect to such an environment, it can fetch the data or the inventory and the relationships between different entities. For example, the relationship between the virtual machines and the hosts they're running on, some network and storage data, what containers do I have in my environment, where are those containers running, what images are those containers running, and then ManageIQ processes all the data, stores it in its own database, and can produce um, different types of insights. It can show you reports. It can do smart state analysis by analyzing the disks for virtual machines. It can also analyze the containers images in case we're running a container management environment. And it can also perform different types of workflow and orchestration. From an architectural point of view, this is just an example which is quite similar for all of the providers. If I take the ManageIQ appliance, where the ManageIQ code runs, I have the UI, I have background workers that are listening on events, there is the refresh worker, there's the Postgres database, and then for each provider, it connects to the REST API of the remote provider, of Overt or of Kubernetes, or in the POC case to Hawkular REST API, and fetches all the data that it needs to process and visualize.
So sorry to interrupt again. I really can barely hear you, and I hear other people saying the same unless they really max out the volume. Is there anything you can do, Alisa?
Sorry?
We can barely hear you.
I'm sorry, this is the loudest. I might have a problem on my laptop or something.
Okay. I mean, some can't hear you at all. So, okay.
Okay, so I hope we will switch to demo in a moment and it will be more clear. So for the Hawkular ManageIQ PLC, we introduced a new type of provider. It's named middleware, and it has one specific implementation for Hawkular case, and it's using Heiko's Ruby client for Hawkular to connect and fetch all the information from the REST API. And then for the sake of the example, we are collecting and persisting wildflood servers and deployments. And then you can see different information both in detailed summary screens and also in the topology. I recorded the screencast, but let's try to go live, and if I hope that's going to work, because it's I think it's more nice. Can you see my screen well now as well? Can everybody see my screen?
Looks good for me.
Great. Okay, so I logged into ManageIQ. This is a developer environment running from my laptop. And you can see here a new tab that doesn't exist in the upstream, of course. This is for our POC. And these are the different tabs that are existing for quite some time in ManageIQ. So in the infrastructure, for example, you can see an Overt or a Rev provider showing information about virtual machines and bare metals and so on. This is connecting to a real environment that we have in our lab here in Tel Aviv. You can see that we have several, we have quite a lot of virtual machines, and we have 43 bare metal hosts, and they are grouped in 11 clusters. And we can do the same with containers. So if I look at the providers that I have for containers, then I have one for OpenShift and one for Kubernetes. So this is our OpenShift environment. It contains 4 machines. It has 9 containers, and we are using 2 Docker registries, and we have 7 different images. And for example, if I go to nodes, which is a name for the machine on which containers are running on in Kubernetes and OpenShift terminology, we can see all sorts of information about that. From the very basic, what is the operating system running there, the kernel version, the capacity of that machine, memory and CPU wise, and also what are and how many containers are running there. This is all clickable. I'm not going to click through all of them, but basically, if you want to know which containers are running on this particular machine, you can click right here. And also, quite a nice feature that was added in the past year is a cross-provider insight. So this is an OpenShift node, but it's also running on a virtual machine on the Rev environment. So if I go here, you will see that I'm navigated from containers to infrastructure. And that will show me details for of the virtual machine or the underlying virtual machine, and then I can go from here to other infrastructure details. Now, if I go back to the original reason why we're talking today, it's the middleware POC. So we try to show that we can do some sort of integration between ManageIQ and Hawkular. So I connected to Living on the Edge. It was really great that I could work with this environment. It was quite easy. And I added here the provider. So last time I fetched the data in the morning. It was 5 hours ago. This is the details for connecting. I also stored the user and the password for connection. And you can see here that I have one middleware server that I fetched and also 14 deployments. So if I go, for example, to see the deployments list, I can see all of the deployments, and I can also drill down to specific deployments. And here it's linked, of course, to the original environment, to Living on the Edge, and also to a specific Wildfly server. Now I can navigate to the server itself. You can see the details of the server. And from here, I can either go back to the deployments or to the provider. Now, keep in mind, this is a POC, but the data is real. It's fetched from a real Hawkular environment, and it's also stored in the Postgres database that the ManageIQ is running. And we created new tables to store that information. Last thing, I call it a bonus track. I added a small topology widget just to visualize in a different way the information we just saw. Okay, so there's this icon representing the provider itself, the one Wildfire server, its name is local, and all of the deployments that are linked to that. We can, of course, show and hide whatever we like, and we can display all the names. And it's, of course, refreshed in the background. We can also manually refresh that. That's it from my side. If you need to ask any questions, feel free now, or if the audio is really bad, then offline is fine as well.
Thank you, Alyssa. That's great, and sorry for the hassle with the link. It was my fault to not exactly know how to navigate that tool. Yeah, if there are no more questions, we will stop here, and Otherwise, people can just ask afterwards. I will cut down the YouTube recording so that the offline version is better, and I will see if I can also enhance the sound a little bit. Okay, then thank you everyone. Have a good holiday season, and we'll see each other end of January with the next Hawkular demo. Thank you.